I find nomination day speeches interesting because they are so short. Candidates can only outline the key priorities of each party and their motivations. Well, I listened to 3 hours of speeches for GE 2025, noted some impressions, and then decided to download the transcript and feed it into ChatGPT and DeepSeek to get some quick analysis. For my own sanity, I only looked at English speeches. Fortunately or otherwise, no East Coast plan moments like before. But first up, the human impression. That is my biased impression on first watching. Short answer, PAP relies on legacy and feels like estate managers, while alternative parties mention parliament representation, cost of living, housing and jobs. Long answer, PAP feels like they are campaigning to become estate managers, talking about things like delivering Tampines Hub, Tampines Ecotown or Punggol Digital District and keeping estates well maintained. They don't say improving life in Singapore, but instead improving life in the specific electoral boundary. They also talk about trust in uncertain times and securing a better or brighter future, with most of them not mentioning specific challenges. Personally, some PAP candidates saying Majula PAP feels a bit disgusting. My vote is not to help the party, it's to help Singapore. And it also feels a bit hypocritical to be talking about being there for the residents considering the shuffling that took place. But anyway, for alternative parties, Red Dot United gave the deepest impression because every candidate gave the same speech. Cost of living, housing, and having Singapore feel like home. Strangely mentioning the billionaire class, though I guess saying Deca millionaire would have been a mouthful. For Workers' Party, Pritam's speech was also memorable for saying the leap of faith, not shying from asking questions deemed too sensitive, and saying that Aljunied Estate is as good as any other. On the whole, WP also mentioned cost of living, housing, family, and giving a voice or choice. When put side by side to Majula PAP, Majula Singapura, working for Singapore feels more connected to the ground. Progress Singapore Party is memorable for their invitation to ministers to debate policy. In terms of messaging, they talk about progress for all and serving voters. Singapore Democratic Party also talks about cost of living and that they want people to thrive, not just survive. Then there are the independent candidates who are surprisingly more eloquent than most candidates. The independent in Mountbatten is more memorable because he talked normally and mentioned pretty much all the issues. Also, be retired, not tired. As for the rest of the parties, my brain didn't remember them. Here and there, they also mention cost of living, housing, representation, and serving. But some other things mentioned are short waiting time for nomination, making things difficult for opposition, and one even saying PAP is the cause of most of our problems. Then there's the negative impression from Make Singapore Home Again. Well, human impressions are one thing and more biased. Let's see if the AI say something different. According to both ChatGPT and DeepSeek, the core messaging for the PAP is their track record, stability in uncertainty, and grassroots concerns. DeepSeek additionally notes that new candidates are introduced as part of a refreshed but experienced team, with some notable rhetoric being the multi-generational loyalty and framing opposition as risky. ChatGPT noted the tone of PAP being calm, confident, and anchoring national plans in local delivery. Workers' Party brands themselves as the credible alternative, highlighting balance in parliament and policy substance. ChatGPT notes their tone as confident but empathetic, with a consistent branding of balancing national policy concerns with strong local examples. DeepSeek notes the Working for Singapore slogan and blank checks, with interesting observations being a critique of the People's Association for alleged partisan bias, and the parliamentary record from the Sengkang GRC team. Progress Singapore Party is about empathy and listening and pushing for policy debates. DeepSeek also notes the focus on jobs and fairness with a rhetoric of progress for all. I think the criticizing the PAP for elitism is AI hallucination, so I checked the speeches again and don't see that. ChatGPT has a more positive tone to PSP's messaging, saying they are sincere, personal, and heart-led, and avoid overt attacks. Red Dot United is about economic disparity, cost of living, housing, with populist rhetoric. ChatGPT says the repetitive messaging makes it memorable, although DeepSeek says the lack of constituency-specific tailoring may hurt local appeal. Singapore Democratic Party has cost of living, compassionate governance, and institutional critique. DeepSeek notes the rhetoric of voting without fear and criticizing PAP for exploiting citizens, while ChatGPT says SDP is academic but passionate, intellectual but not aloof. People's Alliance for Reform placed their messaging in criticizing the PAP, with top issues being cost of living, immigration control, and public housing. Both AI notes that their messaging is emotional. They also note the adversarial or xenophobic undertones. ChatGPT says their speeches feel like protest rally calls more than policy speeches. DeepSeek has grouped the other parties as smaller parties, but ChatGPT still gave each one paragraph. One of the key takeaways by DeepSeek is that smaller parties struggled to distinguish themselves beyond generic slogans. National Solidarity Party is about multi-party democracy, and they also address the issues of housing, jobs, aging population, and mental health. They are friendly, practical, and folksy. Singapore Democratic Alliance stressed sustainable solutions, though it appears ChatGPT forgot, so I prompted it for a summary, and it's about service before self, Singaporeans first. People's Power Party, according to DeepSeek, has a single issue focus on vaccine mandates. ChatGPT also missed them on the first time, and when prompted, says challenging the vaccine mandates is their most unique issue, although they also raised other issues of cost of living, systemic critique of politics, and truth and bodily rights. Singapore United Party has mild rhetoric according to DeepSeek, while ChatGPT says they emphasize unity, positioning as complementary to the ruling party. On independence, ChatGPT says they both focus on breaking the status quo and are positioned as pragmatic outsiders. DeepSeek forgot, but when prompted, apparently hallucinated a bunch of anti-establishment rhetoric. Well, overall, I think these speeches won't change anything for people who already keep up with politics. The bread and butter issue seems to be universally recognized, although different parties emphasize different things. And that's it for this video. And I guess finally, if you just drop the YouTube link into the free version of ChatGPT and ask it to transcribe it, it produces something. Maybe I'm just AI noob, but for this video, much of the work is manual, especially due to hallucinations.